as we were talking about France and the protests, and those are a result of basically irreconcilable differences between factions in France. I mean, there's a group of people who just had enough. We're not going to pay this, what they consider an unjustified carbon tax or whatever. We're just not going to do it. And you, going back the last year or years, have actually talked about our country potentially having irreconcilable differences. And you've gone as far to say before that you could see our country splitting in a way.
Of course I can. I think it's inevitable. I mean, nothing's forever. Nothing lasts forever. Do you believe the people that were members of the Roman Empire believed that Rome would be the power of the world forever? The French at some point in time, the British Empire. I mean, nothing's forever. And they're normally not overthrown in some military intervention. It's normally within that they have their issues and they're not able to reconcile some of the issues. I've got a lot of opinions. I'm of the opinion that America's not here forever. Now, obviously, the continent that is here will be inhabited by some groups of people, but I don't know why we believe. I told you one time, Rev, that the best businesses in the world don't have life cycles. What do they have?
Death cycles.
They have death cycles. Nothing lasts forever. And I don't understand why Americans believe that this country is destined to be here forever. It's not. Now, I'm not saying the day after tomorrow, I believe, is the beginning of the end. I'm not insinuating that. But I do believe that eventually a certain group of people will see this country in a certain regard and another group will see it in a very different way, and there will be some irreconcilable differences. It has happened all throughout history since the beginning of mankind. Why do we believe that doesn't apply to us? That's a bit odd to me. It's easier for me to believe that eventually something will happen than it is the inevitability of nothing ever happening. I mean, you would agree to that. I mean, I think
sure.
when you
if you go back and look in the context of the Civil War, I mean, that was a divided country.
A very divided country.
We survived it.
But we were able to put the Union back together. I just believe that sooner or later, one faction will get its fill of another faction. France is dealing with it today. This is a monumental moment in populism. You got Brexit, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The fundamental divide is not really about people who see the government in a certain way or not. It's about the elites. And I've said that. The eventual disruption will not be about the Republicans or the Democrats in Washington. It will be about the masses. What do the masses believe? And I think that governments around the world have done their damnedest to keep everybody in line. And I think they're beginning to really significantly overreach. And I think via the overreaching, you're hearing a lot of rebel-rousing. And you're seeing the people, this is France. And the people of France are going, no, I'm not going there. You're not doing that to this country. You're not doing that to me. And I believe that Donald Trump was an example of that. I think Brexit was an example of that. I think you're very naive to believe that you can squelch the will of the people, but for so long. And when Scarborough says Washington always wins, there's a certain level of arrogance associated with that. I mean, Joe Scarborough knows Washington very well. He's a creature of Washington. Washington's been very good for Scarborough. But for him to insinuate, well, I mean, we've got our set of rules and the rest of everybody else in the world has theirs, I found something very interesting. And I just dug it out of my file. And I'm going to touch on it again tomorrow. We're talking about Democrats and Republicans. We're not talking about populists and elitists. We're talking about Democrats and Republicans. And we're talking about the divide. Are we getting to a place where one party has so little in common with the other party that we build a fence between the country and say, okay, you progressives, you liberals, you're on that side of the fence. You conservatives, you're on the other side. I think eventually we end up somewhere there. I don't know what the divide will be. I don't know if it'll be socioeconomic. I don't know if it'll be political leanings. I don't know if it'll be, the way we perceive government to function, the role of I don't know what the divide will be, but I found an interesting Pew Research article about Democrats and Republicans and how we find meaning in our lives in similar sources. Very interesting to me. The percentage of Americans who mention as something that provides them with a sense of meaning. And we're all about in the same place. When it comes to family, 72% of Republicans say that gives them a sense of meaning. 68% of Democrats. So we're within 3 or 4 percentage points. A career, 36% of Democrats say the career gives them a sense of meaning. 32% Republicans say that. Money, 21% Democrats, 25% Republicans. Friends, 19%. Republicans and Democrats equally. Activities, 20% of Democrats believe that gives them a sense of meaning. 16% Republicans. Health, 16 and 16 Democrats and Republicans believe good health is important, gives them a sense of meaning. Home and surroundings, 11% for the Dems, 15% for the Republicans. Learning, 13% Democrats, 10% Republicans. So all of these, family, career, money, friends, activities, health, home, learning, all of these are within 3 points, 4 points of one another. That they're really closer than that because a couple of them are exactly the same numbers. Here's where the difference is. The only outlier on this list, spirituality and faith. You're nodding your head. You knew that's where you were going to say. You knew that's where I was headed. Yeah. Somewhere between 9 and 13% of Democrats say that spirituality and faith provide them with a sense of meaning. 28 to 35% of Republicans say that spirituality and faith provide them with a sense of meaning. I've got a couple of real smart friends of mine who believe that eventually, when America has its irreconcilable differences, God will be in the middle of it. It is a belief that faith and spirituality have to be the bedrock of which you build your society upon, or not. The belief of man or the belief in higher power. And I don't know how you square that up, because those are fundamental principles of which we build our entire lives on. I mean, once again, we kind of agree on family. We kind of agree on career. We kind of agree on money. We kind of agree on friends. We kind of agree on activities, health, home, learning. We kind of agree on all these things, but because we believe, I mean, most of us believe that a smarter society is a better society. Solid homes are a good thing for the future of a country. Our health, our activities, all these, money obviously matters. And then we get to that spirituality and faith. And for whatever reason, the Republicans are about where they've always been. About 35% of Republicans say that a spiritual life and a basically God-fearing people is very important in their sense of meaning. The number that has changed dramatically is the Democrats. The Democrats were about where the Republicans are. There were a very similar belief in spirituality and faith being important in all of our lives. And for whatever reason, the Democrats today are, one poll has it 9%, the other has it 13%. So Pew has it 9 to 13%. We're in different light years there. I mean, we're not even the same universe there. So when you talk about irreconcilable differences and what could happen eventually down the road, I think there's a line of demarcation, and that's faith. I think a lot of people will say, hey, man, I'm building my life on my spirituality and my faith. And a large group of progressives will go, I don't have much appetite for spirituality and faith. I'm putting my faith in mankind and our ability to execute policy or govern a group of people, or, and Rev, that's a big divide. I mean, that's the Grand Canyon. We can work past some of the career. We can work past some of the family. When you've got a group of people who believe in man law and that man is the most supreme being in the history of the planet, and that spirituality and faith are kind of a bit hokey, and I'm interested in it, but I don't pay much attention to it. And you've got another group of people who build their lives on that. I'm not saying they get everything right. I mean, money still matters, career still matters, activities and health still matter, but they have decided that of all the things that give them a sense of meaning, my belief in a higher power, my spirituality is something I don't want to let go. And I think there's a road to travel sooner than later in regards to that. I have no idea where it leads, none whatsoever. But when you ask me, where do I see the divide? Sometimes I believe there is the divide. It is a group of people who just don't have much time for God anymore. And we become so enlightened and sophisticated. You hear me joking around. You hear me all the time joking around about the modern, enlightened, intellectual society. we're a little smarter than God is. Now, I don't believe that for a second, but it's fairly obvious that one of our political parties has a large contingency among that party. And I'm not accusing Democrats of not believing in God. I mean, the numbers are what the numbers are. And this is Pew Research. This isn't yours truly cooking the books on some study or survey. I mean, I've got it right here in my hand. We're about the same people with the same priorities until it gets to spirituality. And we're really heading, the Republicans are not any more spiritual today than they were 20 years ago. They're about where they were. They're not any more spiritual today than they were about 50 years ago. They're about where they were. Roughly a third of all Republicans say spirituality is something that gives them a sense of meaning. That doesn't mean you can believe in God, but your spirituality not give you a sense of meaning. That there's a difference in believing in God and having a spiritual purpose. And then you've got a lot of Democrats, and I still believe that the majority of Democrats believe in God. I mean, I still believe that. I know a lot of Democrats. I think they believe in God. I think they're curious about religion. It's just that their faith doesn't give them a sense of meaning. And I just think when you've got a group of people in this country whose faith gives them a sense of meaning, and a group of people in this country who are growing by the thousands whose faith is a bit irrelevant in how they live their lives, tough to govern. I mean, I think that's a tough nut to crack. And I think, in all honesty, that could be the dividing line. When we start saying, okay, we've come to a place, as the Roman Empire did, as the great French societies did, as the British Empire did, we come to a place that we're just not capable to be governed. And a lot of people debate that now. We talk about, we're looking at the front row of the National Cathedral yesterday, had all the former presidents. You had Carter, you had Clinton, you had Obama, you had Trump, you had Bush 43 there to pay tribute to Bush 41. I wonder if anybody could be a good president today. I wonder if the job hadn't got just absolutely and totally impossible. The days of a 70 or 80% approval rating are just days gone by because we are a deeply divided nation. Well, Pew Research is saying we're not that deeply divided in a number of places, but where I think some of the essentials of life and the places we find our purpose, I think there's an ever-growing division. And I think it's bad for the country.